The man who was definitely going to do something important eventually. At exactly 6:17 a.m. on a Tuesday that felt suspiciously like a Monday, Arthur Blenkinsop woke up with the strong feeling that today might be the day something happened. This was unusual, because nothing ever happened to Arthur, and if something did happen, it usually apologized afterward. Arthur lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, which had been installed in 2009 and still made a noise like it was quietly judging him. It rotated at a speed best described as motivated but cautious. Interesting, Arthur said out loud, because he liked to participate in his own mornings. He swung his legs out of bed and stepped directly onto a Lego brick. Now, this was not mysterious. This was just unfortunate. But what was mysterious was that Arthur did not remember owning a Lego. He stood there, balancing on one foot, holding the other like a flamingo with regrets. He said, because that's what people say when they don't want to panic. Arthur placed the Lego on his nightstand next to his alarm clock, which was blinking 6:18, as if to say, "You're already late for whatever this is." He went to the kitchen and brewed coffee. The coffee machine took its time, as it always did, making noises that suggested it was thinking very deeply about water while waiting. Arthur noticed something odd on the fridge. A note. This was alarming because Arthur never left notes. He barely left the house. The note was written in his handwriting. This was confirmed after he compared it to a grocery list that simply said, "Milk, bread, something nice. If it's on sale," the note on the fridge read, "Do not open the drawer." Arthur squinted. "What drawer?" he asked the kitchen, which declined to answer. There were several drawers: cutlery drawer, junk drawer, the drawer that contained batteries, tape, and a single key nobody remembered the purpose of. Arthur sipped his coffee. It tasted like coffee, which was disappointing, because he had been hoping for answers. He decided to ignore the note for now, because that was his approach to most things, pillaging emails and his knees instead. He sat at the table and ate toast. The toast was fine, not remarkable, slightly overdone, the kind of toast that doesn't apologize while chewing. Arthur noticed another thing. The toaster had an extra button. It wasn't labeled. It wasn't lit. It hadn't been there yesterday. Arthur stared at it. The toaster stared back, in the way appliances do when they know something you don't. "Not today," Arthur said firmly. He finished breakfast, washed his plate, and went to get dressed. His sock drawer contained exactly the right number of socks, which was unsettling. Usually there was one sock that had clearly retired early, in his pocket. He found a receipt. It was dated tomorrow. Arthur laughed. "Good one," he said, "to no one." The receipt was for something called replacement. No price. Just a CHECKMARK. At this point, a normal person might panic. Arthur did not. Arthur sat on the bed and thought. Thinking was something he did well. Acting was more of a trial feature. He looked at the Lego brick again. It was blue, slightly warm, like it had been handled often, possibly by him, possibly by someone who knew him very well, or, worse, Someone who organized things. The note on the fridge echoed in his mind. Not open the drawer. Arthur stood up. He walked toward the kitchen. He stopped. He turned around. He sat back. Down. Later, he said. Because whatever was in that drawer wasn't going anywhere, probably. And besides, the ceiling. Fan was still turning. The coffee was still warm, and nothing had actually happened yet. But it was only 6:42 a.m., and Arthur had the feeling, the quiet, uncomfortable feeling, that today wasn't done with him, not even close. The envelope that wasn't in a hurry, the envelope arrived on a Wednesday. This was unusual, because nothing important ever arrived on Wednesdays. Wednesdays were for leftovers, and realizing it was only Wednesday, Arthur Finch noticed the envelope, because it was sitting exactly in the middle of his doormat, not slightly to the left, not casually crooked, perfectly centered, like it had been measured or judged. Arthur stared at it for a full 10 seconds. He checked the door, still his door. He checked the envelope, still an envelope. It was beige, not exciting beige, the kind of beige that didn't want attention. There was no stamp, no return address, just his name written in very neat handwriting, which was rude, because Arthur's handwriting was not neat. He picked it up and turned it over. On the back, in smaller letters, it said, "There's no rush." "Well," Arthur said, "that's reassuring." He placed the envelope on the hallway table next to a bowl of keys that belonged to people who had once visited and never asked for them back. He removed his coat, which had 3 pockets and none of them useful, and went to make tea. The kettle took longer than usual, or maybe it always took this long, and Arthur was just paying attention today, while waiting. He noticed the clock on the wall had stopped. This wasn't alarming. The clock stopped often. It was more of a suggestion than a device. But what was odd was that it had stopped at 11:11. Arthur nodded slowly. "Of course you did," he said. The kettle clicked off. P poured the water, added a tea bag, and waited. The tea bag floated like it was, considering its options. He returned to the hallway and looked at the envelope again. Still there, still patient. Arthur opened a drawer instead. The drawer contained 2 rubber bands, a pen that did not write but wanted to, a birthday candle shaped like the number 4. Arthur did not need any of these things, which meant they would remain there indefinitely. He sat down in his chair and sipped the tea. It was the right temperature. This concerned him. Tea was never the right temperature. He cleared his throat and spoke to the envelope. "I'll get to you," he said. The envelope did not respond, which, frankly, was respectful. Minutes passed. Or maybe they didn't. The clock wasn't helping, eventually. Arthur opened the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper. On it, printed very plainly, were the words, "Not yet." Arthur blinked. He turned the paper over. Blank. He checked inside the envelope again, just in case the message had brought a friend. It had not. Arthur leaned back in his chair and exhaled. "Well," he said, "that saves time." He folded the paper carefully and placed it back into the envelope. He considered throwing it away, but the envelope felt expectant, like it had planned. Or a calendar. The lights flickered once, then twice. Then they stopped, as if embarrassed. Arthur stood up and walked to the window. Outside, everything looked normal. The street lamp flickered in a way that suggested it was tired. A cat sat on a fence, doing nothing with great commitment. Arthur waved at the cat. The cat did not wave back Dotwood. When Arthur turned round, he noticed something new. On the table, next to the envelope, was a second envelope identical, except this one said, "Soon." Arthur sighed. He sat down. He picked up his tea, still warm, which meant, unfortunately, that whatever was coming wasn't finished yet, and Arthur had a feeling, not a dramatic feeling, just a mildly inconvenient one, that when it did arrive, it would ask him to sign for it.